A while back, I saw a tweet that has lived like rent-free in my brain for the better part of a year now. It was this one right here. Only one can stay. And then 9 of the greatest Zelda games of all time listed out. And I instantly knew my answer. That was not the problem. I knew what I picked, but why did I pick it is the part that stuck with me. There's a lot of fantastic games in this list, and Ocarina of Time, the first 3D Zelda game from 1998, is the one that continues to hold true as the best Zelda game, in my opinion. And I'm not the only one that holds this opinion. It is pretty universally accepted to be one of the greatest games, not Zelda games of all time. Multiple publications, internet lists, forums will put it at the top of their list. It holds 3 of the top 100 game spots on Metacritic. 3 of them, and one of them is number 2, only behind Baldur's Gate 3, which came out this year. So that means Ocarina of Time was at the top up until fall of 2023. That's crazy. The remasters are better than some games that have come out. Zelda is a massive franchise with dozens of entries, and every single game has diehard fans that are willing to claim that it's the best. So why is it that this 25-year-old game can continue to win the hearts and minds of so many people, myself included, and be their favorite game of all time? So I wanted to do something a little different than my normal videos today and talk about why you should love Ocarina of Time. And just to preface, this is my take. I love every single Zelda game for a lot of different reasons, and you're entitled to your own opinion about them. You don't have to take what I say at face value. This is just me gushing over one of my favorite games. Pretty much every single Zelda game starts the same exact way. You've got Link, our intrepid young adventurer who's naive and full of wonder, ready to venture out into the world, unaware of the harrowing nightmares that this 12-year-old boy is about to face. Like, seriously, what the Christ is that thing? Or this one? Why does this kid think that he's gonna be able to beat these things? Because that shit's scary. But nonetheless, Link wakes up and sets off on his adventure. And I'm not joking when I say he wakes up. Most of the Zelda games involve Link waking up somewhere, whether it's his own room or someone else's room, or in a cave with amnesia, and then a creepy old man tells you to go look in the church and that you're the chosen one and you gotta go save the world. It doesn't matter. That's how Zelda games start, Link waking up. But Ocarina of Time does pretty much the exact same thing. I won't lie to you. Link wakes up in his bedroom, but the way that they use this trope of this unassuming young boy venturing out into the world is just, it's good, because there's a couple of different situations that Link normally wakes up in. He's either completely amnesiac, if that's how you pronounce that word, I'm not sure, doesn't remember anything, and that's just kind of like the most lame way of explaining away a story. He lives in a kingdom already and already understands that this is a big place, there's stakes to the world, and when the king or the princess or the whatever's attacked, he's already aware that this is going to be a grand adventure. Or he's already on an adventure like Link's Awakening, and he crash lands on an island and again already knows there's adventure to be had. But in Ocarina of Time, Link's just a forest kid doing forest kid stuff. He's like climbing under logs and finding swords in weird woodland chests and picking up rocks and throwing them to get the money inside the rocks. And he's singing songs with his friends in the woods. And then he goes and finds a big talking tree, goes inside the tree, and he beats the shit out of the spider thing. It's great because his worldview is so small. But after you defeat the spider thing, that's when the story really starts. You're told that there's more to this world than what you've known. When you step foot on the Hyrule field for the first time, Link and yourself both get the same sense of wonder. This character is supposed to be seeing the world for the first time, and it's the same thing you're doing. You step foot out there and you see all this opportunity, hills to climb, a volcano in the distance, a big castle looming over the horizon, more rocks to pick up and throw to get more money out of. And as you start to explore and you make your way to the castle and you go up, sneak around the back, you find a chicken from this little girl and you go sneak in. Next thing you know, you're sneaking past guards trying to find your way to the princess's chamber, and there's a picture of Bowser and Mario for some reason, and then you learn that there's a spooky guy from the desert that wants to take over the kingdom and that the princess is afraid of him, and then you get kicked out and you get told you gotta go find magic rocks. It just keeps growing. I realized that was a really convoluted way of explaining why I like the beginning of Ocarina of Time so much. So let me try it this way. The game does a fantastic job at revealing to you the scope of the world at the same pace that it's being revealed to Link. And it helps so much with immersion because of that. You feel like you're experiencing the story through Link's eyes. When you leave Kokiri Forest and see Hyrule Field, that's the first time he's seeing it. When you get back from collecting the first 3 stones, you feel like you've done so much, and then you go into the Temple of Time and become an adult and realize you're just getting started, baby. There's so much more story left. You don't get that in the other Zelda games. You either set out and you know exactly how many dungeons there are in the area and how many magical flutes or whatever it is you have to go find, or you take the Breath of the Wild route and you get a bunch of exposition right at the beginning, and then you have to fight tooth and nail in order to get any remaining amount of story. And I think the way that they leave those little narrative breadcrumbs to keep you on a somewhat linear path but give you an open world to explore, that's why I like Ocarina of Time so much. But that's not to say that the game is just threading you along on this plot line. There are so many fun puzzles and side quests along the way. Zelda is a franchise known for its side quests and collectibles, and Ocarina of Time has this in spades. There's 100 gold skulltulas to collect, 36 heart containers to collect, rupees all over the damn world. You can get magic beans and plant them to go find secret loot all over the place. There's cows and underground tunnels. You can go fishing. You can go target range shooting. You can go play bob-on bowling if you want to. There's masks that you can trade to do commerce with the people of the village. You could go do a fetch quest to get a bigger sword, break the sword, and you have to fix the sword. And there's so many. That's not even all of them. There's more. But even with all of those things to do, the puzzles and the mini games and the collectibles, it doesn't feel like it's pulling you away from the main story. There's games like Skyrim that have so much to do that you end up getting distracted and forget about the main quest for like 2 weeks worth of playtime. But in this, it feels like these little collectibles and extras are there as nice little garnish on the main story, but you're not getting so distracted from it that you lose sight of the prize. And even if you do, you have one of the most divisive mechanics of all time built in to help keep you on track. Let me introduce you to Navi. Navi is your fairy companion that travels with you for pretty much the entire game and is there to help keep you on track. She's sort of like an alarm that you set when your ADHD is distracting you and you need to remember to do something else, like take your medication. Except that instead of a little, she goes,
"Hey, listen! Hey, listen, 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 listen! Hey, listen!"
That sound is seared into the memory of gamers everywhere. It's one of the most iconic sounds in all of gaming, to the point where it's been sampled in like tons of pop music and hip hop and EDM music, but it is also incredibly annoying. But I do appreciate Navi for the times where you are getting very sucked down the rabbit hole of doing the diving game for the millionth time, hoping you're gonna get another heart container. And she goes, "Hey, we were supposed to go enter the tummy of a fish, right?" "Oh yeah, you're right, thanks." She's there in case you get so engrossed into the world that you forget that you're supposed to be saving it. And while there are still quest reminders and trackers throughout every single Zelda game, it seems like with the open world games, we lost the presence of a truly in-canon character that helps keep you on track. And I realize these characters are annoying to a lot of people and they might not like them, like Navi in Ocarina of Time, or Tattle from Majora's Mask, or Fi from Skyward Sword, or even the little hat guy that I can't remember his name from Minish Cap. I think it's like Tony the Hat or something like that. But these characters are important for keeping you engrossed in the storytelling and the world that you're exploring while still keeping you on track. But that's just my opinion. I don't know. Another thing I like about Ocarina of Time, besides the engrossing storytelling and sense of scale, is the way that they turn everything into a puzzle of some kind. Now, puzzles are an intrinsic part of a Zelda game's DNA. You've got 2D games where literally every single screen seems to be some sort of a puzzle that you're solving, up to the open world games where you've got the whole world peppered with these shrines to solve and big boulders that you can push down hills in order to find the Korok so you can throw the Korok across the river. But the 3D Zelda games, the early ones, they're this wonderful blend of having puzzles be all over the place and a core part of what you're doing, while being able to make them fit better into the world in a unique way. See, the 2D games are great at laying out puzzles for you everywhere you look. They pretty much turn everything into a puzzle. But because of the limited perspective that they have being two-dimensional, it can be really obvious that you're solving puzzles and not exploring a world that just happens to have puzzles laid out everywhere. Like a rock that very clearly is out of place, or a boulder with a perfectly boulder-shaped hole not that far from it that you're probably supposed to push the boulder into, or one chunk of a wall that's all laid out on a grid that has a lot more crumblies in it than the rest of the wall. These can still be really fun to solve, don't get me wrong, but it doesn't feel quite as integrated into the world that you're exploring. And then you've got the other end of the spectrum with the open world games, where you've got these intricately complex puzzles that are in the shrines, but the open world just kind of wants to make use of the sandbox elements, and you don't get new items or anything to introduce new puzzle mechanics, so everything feels very stagnant in between. Like, I know I can light the grass on fire, you showed me before, and I've also played other open world games. It's not nearly as exciting as a hook shot. I'd like a hook shot, please. The hook shot's actually a perfect example of why I think the 3D Zelda games work so well for their puzzles. It's not a new item. It's been around since, I don't even know when. The hook shot was first in A Link to the Past, which came out in 1992. If you're not aware, the hook shot is basically a chain gun with a grappling hook at the end that you can use to hook onto different connection points and pull yourself over to them regardless of any obstacles that are in the way. It's what I refer to as a progress item, something that you typically would get in a dungeon and use to complete that dungeon's puzzles, but also then use to traverse the rest of the game now that you've unlocked that ability. In the 2D games, you're limited to just the 2D range of movement. So you could see a tree stump on the other side of a river, hook shot your way over to it. Or you could see maybe a target on the wall and do the same. But in the 3D games, you're no longer limited to a two-dimensional plane of movement with the hook shot. Now, yeah, you can cross a big chasm and get to the other side, but they can also put hook shot access points on the ceiling or on the floor down in a pit. They can utilize different materials to get up and down. You can hook onto chests that you never realized you could access. It's not that this is a new mechanic, but it's able to be used in new ways that's really interesting. It's just a lot more engrossing when you're able to explore the full space and take it all in and see that not only is this thing that's right across from you that very clearly looks like a puzzle item something that you can engage with, but the whole world is something that you can engage with in these items. And that's also why I feel like the open world 3D games are kind of lacking. They don't have those progress items like a hook shot. You get all of your abilities right off the rip at the beginning of the game, and that's pretty much it. That's all you have. That's your tool belt for the rest of the game. You're much more limited in the scope of how much you're really opening up the world because they want the world to be open to you completely from the get-go. It's a novel concept, but I don't feel like it works well in a franchise like Zelda that's so built around unlocking things and uncovering the world little by little. But I realize that's a personal gripe. There's a lot of people that love the open world games, and I do love them as games, just not as Zelda games. But not everything's about gameplay mechanics and storytelling and world building. Ocarina of Time also has something going for it that is truly special and perhaps the most subjective thing that we'll be talking about today. Aesthetic. Something about Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask just brings back the nostalgia for me. I don't know if it's just the blocky character designs that feel cartoony and a little more wholesome, or if it's the bright and colorful color palette that the game has, but it just does something for me. Yeah, the textures and character models didn't age particularly well if you're looking for hyper-realistic graphics, but honestly, I feel like they aged better than some of the stuff that came out in the late 2000s and early 2010s. I love Twilight Princess for its storytelling and for the puzzle designs in it, but it didn't age particularly well graphically. This is with 4K textures and HD upscaling. This is not, it's not great. There are some areas that are gorgeous, I will fully admit, but this is, not all of it is, Now, not everybody likes the N64 aesthetic. I get it. Zelda's got a huge heap of different artistic styles in the franchise. You've got the 2D sprites and the updated 2D sprites, and you've got the 3D models of the 2D sprites, and the cel-shaded Wind Waker look, and the darker, grittier Twilight Princess look, and the somewhere in between the two Breath of the Wild look. But for me, there's just something about them. Something about the low poly, colorful sprite assets that just makes me happy. It takes me back to being a kid, and I get that that's a subjective feeling. What's not subjective is the absolute banger after banger after banger of a soundtrack that Ocarina of Time has, and I will not be taking feedback on this part, because if you disagree with me, you need to have your ears examined by a medical professional. Song of Storms, banger. Lost Woods, banger. Even the theme music, banger. Fucking Gerudo Valley? Are you kidding me, dude? This soundtrack is, to me, the poster child for video game soundtracks. Iconic music. This score was impeccable. Song after song after song baked into my memory. Maybe it's because I played the game so many times, but I don't think it's that. I just think it's some truly remarkable scoring of a video game. Like, I've talked to friends about this, and I don't think I can come up with a soundtrack that has more iconic songs on it. Like, not in terms of popularity, because there's stuff like, you know, the Mario theme song and the Halo theme song that will rival, if not beat, Zelda for being as recognizable as single songs. But this sheer volume of bangers on this soundtrack is just incredible. There's not a miss. Even the goddamn shop song. Like, what? The music in this game just gives me life, and it alone kind of carries the game. It helps that the rest of the game is also incredible, but the music alone has me putting it at the top of my Zelda games. And I'm perfectly fine with that. I am willing to admit that. And that brings me to my final point about Ocarina of Time and why I love it so much. And that's its replayability. It's not too short of a game to where the whole thing is burned into my brain and I don't have a reason to play it again, nor is it too long of a game where it's a daunting task to sit down and give it another go after I beat it the first time. There's enough collectibles that I can keep myself busy for a long time if I want to get them all, or I can just get none of them and go about my time. Same with minigames. I can keep myself plenty distracted going through all the minigames, or I can just leave them be. The aesthetics are charming and make me happy, and the music is timeless, and I love listening to it even when I'm not playing the game. All in all, it's a game that for me, I can keep going back to, and it's just as rewarding time and time again. And there's a massive community that makes it even more replayable by introducing fun and interesting ways to play it. The speedrunning community is constantly coming up with new ways to speed up gameplay and find faster ways to get around the game. And then there's randomizers, something a friend introduced to me a little while ago that I've never stopped playing since I found out about them. The idea that you can take a game like Ocarina of Time with fixed item locations and solutions to puzzles and shuffle those solutions around throughout the world into new locations means that I get to experience one of my favorite games of all time for the first time over and over and over again. I really have a massive appreciation for the folks that work on the Ocarina of Time randomizer. Just a huge thank you if you ever see this, because it's let me relive my favorite game time and time again in new ways, and I am so eternally grateful for that. Thank you. I get that everybody's got their games that they can replay that are just comfort things, but Ocarina of Time for me very much is that. It's not too dark, it's not too light, it's got plenty of stuff to do, but it doesn't force you to do all that stuff. I'm kind of like Goldilocks finding Baby Bear's chair that's just right and it fits perfect, and that chair is Ocarina of Time, and I can just sit in that chair forever until the big parent bears come home and they want to destroy me. I realize that replayability is another incredibly subjective category, and it doesn't have any sort of metrics I can really argue. I can just kind of state why I like it, but this is my video, and I'm talking about why I like the game, not why my favorite game is objectively better than your favorite game. Like I said at the beginning, this is my opinion. You can have your own. I didn't really want to prove to you that Ocarina of Time is better. I just kind of felt like making this video to talk about one of my favorite games of all time. It's been something that's on my mind for a while, and I felt like doing something different. I don't even know if I'm gonna post this video to the channel. This could just get like edited and I could throw it on a hard drive and it'll never see the light of day again. I don't know. This is a completely different format for me. If I did post it and you're watching right now, thank you so much for watching, because this probably is a complete and total shit show. But if you want to see more stuff like it, let me know, because like I said, I'm just trying new stuff and seeing what works, and I'd love to hear your feedback, unless it's mean. If it's mean, keep it to yourself. But either way, thanks for watching. I really appreciate you being here. I'll see you in whatever the next video is that I post. Maybe I'll talk about another game. I'd love to talk to you about Mega Man Battle Network, because that was my other favorite game as a kid. Peace out. Bye-bye.